you, Chair. Minister, the recent Rental Survey Report 2020 by the Residential Tenancy Board found that affordability is a significant issue for tenants, with more than half of the surveyed tenants spending more than 30% of their income on rent, and 64% of those are in Dublin. Needless to say, I support anyone that is at risk of homelessness following any eviction notice and to prevent their entry into emergency accommodation. I do think the rights of the tenants are not really addressed in legislation. A tenant is left very vulnerable when there are issues within the property that they are renting. A tenant is afraid to draw the landlord onto them in case he decides to sell the property, and then they become homeless. The council need to move faster in getting help where there is a problem with a house that the tenant is living in, and to ensure that the works are carried out. One example I came across recently was where a tenant was found to have 22 items wrong with the house that they were in. The landlord said that he did not have the money to deal with it, and the tenant was left high and dry. The answer was, stay in the house or get out and I'll sell the house, or there is plenty of other people that want to rent the house, no matter what condition it's in. Minister, as much goodwill you might have to help people that are homeless, you and your government have been the cause of increasing the cost for people living in a house. At a time of COVID crisis and a time of a national crisis for fuel, you and your government were part of using a percentage model on fuel, which means that every person that's in a house that doesn't have the proper up-to-grade heating systems, air-to-water, solar panels and other systems on the floor heating, that they're left with a system where they're running their houses on oil heating or solid fuel. And your answer to that was let's increase the taxes on all those fuels, which in hindsight means that for any person in a one-car person home, you increased their taxes by €30 a week on a one-car person home, and a person that has 2 cars, you've increased it by 60. On a home that was needed solid fuel heating, you're taking an extra €20 between the coal and blocks or briquettes or whatever they're using. You increase the taxes by €20 on a household by that. And even when it has oil heating, you've increased the oil heating in their house by €30 a week. And we're wondering why people are going cold and why people are homeless, because on one hand they have excessive rents and poor accommodation, which means that they've got to heat their houses. And what do? You increase the taxes at a time where the most vulnerable in this country need your help. Now, I've said it in this House more than one occasion. We all have a green agenda. We all want to save the planet. But in a type of crisis, it's up to government to protect the people that need our help. We've done it through COVID, where things can be changed overnight and we help protect people. But Minister, your outlook is completely wrong at the moment to help people that are in homeless accommodation. I'm in construction all my life, and I can see firsthand myself, and I'm still self-employed, of the cost of materials to build houses or to retrofit houses. They've gone up 47%. Now, I'm not a landlord myself, but I do know an awful lot of tenants and I do know an awful lot of landlords. And I know some very, very, very good landlords, and I know some very, very good tenants. But I also know a lot of bad landlords, and I know a lot of bad tenants. But we have that in all walks of life. And what I do seem to see is that the small person that would have got into renting, whether it was from mortgage arrears, that they had to sell a house or whatever they had to do, or they wanted to fund a house to try and keep the house, that the small person that was in rental market were usually the local person, and the person that was renting off them was local, and they were looking after them, and they were keeping them within. But then you have the likes of the vulture funds and the big business, that every time you turn the corner, they're increasing the rent. And they look around the corner and say, that person over there can pay me more rent, so they're going to push this person out. We have a very, very serious situation. And you can help an awful lot of people in this country that are paying excessive rents in poor accommodation by helping them even through fuel. And I've said it earlier on, at a time that Europe asked you to reduce taxes, you increased them. I said earlier on today that you're taking 5.6 billion in the extra taxes that you're charging on fuel. That's including home heating oil. That's including coal, briquettes. That's including fuel that's into every vehicle. I stood yesterday I went up and met farmers that were protesting on the gate because they were saying how serious it was for their generation to survive. You're going to make them homeless with the way that you're carrying on. Get a grip. You've lost complete grip with reality. You don't understand what it's like for people that don't have infrastructure. And where you might not be able to help people and get them accommodation in certain areas, you can help people hold on to the accommodation that they have until something else becomes available to them by freezing the tax at a set price, which means that it's like a tracker mortgage. You set in the tax that you're going to take on different sections for 12 months. That means everyone knows exactly what they have in their hand when they come to be able to try and afford rent. People, the same way that are in house at the moment, that are trying to pay their mortgage payments, they can then set down exactly how much money they have in their hand to try and keep their family safe so they don't become homeless. That's what you can do. For people that have to travel to work in a car because of no infrastructure, of failure from your government and the previous governments, a failure to look at people that were in situations where there's no infrastructure. And COVID has actually shown this throughout the whole country. It has actually shown that there is a lack of infrastructure in the country. You could help by saying to government, let's not stop using the percentage model, and let's lock in our taxes. Because yes, you need to raise tax to pay for the country. Yes, we understand that. But this is a time of a crisis. And if you used the funding that you have, even in some way of relieving people from their weekly outgoings, the fastest way to do it is lower the taxes on fuel, on the extra tax on fuel. Go back to your 2020 model where you were taking 81 cents a litre, you're now taking €1. 19 cents by 2.2 million vehicles, by 40,000 HGVs, by 338,000 light goods vehicles, by 71,000 tractors. You can make a direct impact into people's household at the moment, into their purse, where they can use it to keep them warm in a house that's in poor repair at the moment until they can get something better. You can do that. Your government can do that. But you refuse to do that. So, Minister, there are many ways of trying to help the homeless. There's many ways of trying to stop people from becoming homeless. That is one way that you can do a direct impact. And by giving people €100 towards an electricity bill, if they're relying on electricity to heat their home, and the heat going out through the windows, is 170 million that you're giving back to the taxpayer of their own money, when you're taking in 5.6 billion in extra taxes since 2020. So, Minister, it's in your hands.